Hello everybody, welcome to our presentation. I'm Linh and this is Phương, my partner. Climate change has long since ceased to be a scientific curiosity and is no longer just one of many environmental and regulatory concerns. As the United Nations Secretary General has said, it is the major overriding environmental issues of our time and the single greatest challenge facing environmental regulators. It is the growing crisis with economic, health and safety, food production, security, and other dimensions. From the importance of climate change, we have come up with the idea to choose it as our speaking project topic. This hot button issue is now being concerned, but not as equal as it should be. Especially the concern come from the normal residents like us. To improve this circumstance, knowing more about the nature of climate change and its influence is not essential before taking any step to reduce the consequences.
There are some obvious evidence of climate change. According to an ongoing temperature analysis conducted by scientists at NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, the average global temperature on Earth, which is about 61 degrees Fahrenheit at present, has been reported to have increased by about 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, there's likely that global temperatures will continue to rise for decades to come, with a temperature rise of 2.5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit over the next century. As a consequence, this may not only have impacts for the region's people, wildlife, and plants. However, its most serious impact may be on rising sea levels, which is the result of added water from melting land ice and the expansion of sea water as it warms. The average temperatures in the Arctic are rising twice as fast as they are elsewhere on Earth, and the world's ice sheets are melting fast. According to the Third National Climate Assessment Report, global sea level has risen by about 8 inches since 1880. It is projected to rise from 1 to 4 feet by 2100. And even worse, the Arctic Ocean is forecast to become essentially ice-free in summer before mid-century. The potential future effects of global climate change cause high frequency of floods, longer periods of drought in some regions, and an increase in the number, duration, and intensity of tropical storms, and frost-free seasons will lengthen.
Our considerings as environmental problems, climate change has already set changes into many aspects of the society and impact on all walks of life. There are some evidences that it should be called a social issue, which not many people could ever imagine what climate change results to. Impacts such as rising temperatures and increased frequency of extreme weather events put severe pressure on food availability, stability, access, and use directly through the impacts on the crop yields, crop pests, diseases, soil fertilities, and soil water holding properties. There is a well-accepted prediction that climate change will and already has caused severe regional water shortages. This consequence is not standalone. It results to more serious problems. In agriculture, there are the reduced in farmer and communities who depends on the selling the fruits and veggies income, and the global food price would rise. In immigration, it means the overcrowded situation in big cities and developed countries when other sides of the world are running out of resources which are essential for living on. The flow of climate refugee people can also distribute some risk throughout the world, like terrorism or social evils. Women, children, and the elderly, who already tend to be vulnerable groups in the society, will become even more so from the climate change. The rural areas of developing countries, women in rural area of developing countries, women and children could become the main labor source when men and adolescents move to the urban sites to earn more money for their families' living. Children and the elderly are also more susceptible for the health concerns associated with the climate change. Many communities will be forced to move as they are exposed to rising sea levels, extreme drought, and that puts strain on resources, or even extreme rainfall. That becomes the norm. The entire nation of Kiribati, a small island state in the Pacific, is expected to become uninhabitable due to the sea level rise, and the country has recently bought land in Fiji in order to relocate. This means entire ways of life that have existed for centuries will be relocated and changed forever.
In terms of the economic consequences, there are many damages to property and infrastructure. Extreme weather events require extensive repair of essential infrastructure such as homes, roads, bridges, and so on. This disruption in daily life related to climate change mean that loss in work and school days and harm trade, transportation, agriculture, and so on. Severe rainfall events and snowstorms can delay planting and harvesting, causing power outages, traffic jams, delay air travel, and otherwise make it difficult for people to go about their daily businesses. Climate-related health risks also reduce productivity. These damages come with much coping cost. Rebuilding after disaster strike is likely to prove even more costly than these preventive measures. Okay, so after collecting the data on the evidence, natural and economical plus social effects of the climate change, we finally came up with two kinds of solutions to this problem. The first one is the mitigation, which means that to deal with the causes of climate change by reducing emissions. There are many possible ways, including improvements to energy efficiency and vehicle fuel economy, such as use electricity for transportation, industry, and home heating. People should get used to utilize wind and solar power, hydrogen produced from renewable sources, biofuels, natural gas, and nuclear power, which are environmentally friendly sources of energy nowadays. Furthermore, there is also a new process called carbon sequestration, which means capturing the carbon dioxide emitted from fossil fuel and store it underground. In addition to reduce the gases we emitted to the atmosphere, we can also increase the amount of gases we take out of the atmosphere. Plants and trees absorb CO2 as they grow, sequestering carbon naturally, increasing forest land and
Making changes
to
to the way we farm could increase the amount of carbon we're storing. Adaptations refers to dealing with the impacts of climate change, adapting to life in a changing climate, which involves adjusting to actual or expected future climate. For example, in an agriculture and food supply, farmers adapt to changes in climate by developing crops varieties that are more tolerant to heat, droughts, or flooding from heavy rains, and provide more shade and airflow in barns to protect livestock from higher summer temperature.
So how exactly do humans on Earth deal with the climate change? We have been propagandized a lot about protecting the environment from global warming, the rising greenhouse emissions to the atmosphere that makes the Earth warmer, and many other serious issues that the environment is facing. From my point of view, although somehow people have perceived that the negative impacts of climate change outweigh the positive ones, they are not fully aware of how serious it brought about. People misunderstood the change in climate, which is just which is just a tiny shift that obviously must have happened naturally, and it doesn't affect a thing about the economy or the society as a whole. Instead, they believe that dealing with the consequences of climate change is none of their businesses, and it is the government's duty. If they do it, it kind of like not enough to improve the situation. Taking the traffic in Vietnam as an example, when waiting for the traffic light to flip from red to green in about 60 seconds, although having been advised to turn off the engine when there's up to 30 seconds, many people do not follow this advice as they think that if they do so, and whether the earth is already in danger and it's already warm as it meant to be, so there's no need to protect the environment anymore. I know humans do not totally perceive the way how to reduce the negative impacts of climate change on the globe, although our country stands in the 7th place of the most serious environmental affected countries. Maybe they are waiting for a miracle.
Climate change is not only a serious issue to deal with, but it's also one of the most disputable problems for every country around the world. The biggest and the most meaningful effort that all nations have ever together made was the Paris Climate Change Agreement on the 4th November 2016. It can be called a breakthrough of the reducing climate change impacts process between the 196 countries, and officially passed after 20 years negotiates. The president of the COP21, also the foreign secretary of France, claimed that the Paris Agreement allowed every representative of every participant nation to come back to their homelands with proud and this international effort is worthier than any particular ones, but do not be too engrossed in the achievement humans had just gained. The main side we also have to look at and feel responsible is how hard this result came along, and what was the problem inside an environmental agreement. Almost 200 countries had to cost 20 years to come up with the acceptance, but conflicts appear when it turned to the word responsibility. Developing country includes some countries that bear most of the consequences of climate change, wanted the developed countries, that most of which release the majority of emissions, to have more financial contribution. Moreover, that cutting down emissions means that low speed of the industry development was the most popular reason for the hesitation. Everyone knows that climate change is a matter of survival, but the economic benefits, or we can call the greedy needs of humans, seems to be more overweight. The understanding between countries is not strong enough, and many nations could never really pay attention for the climate change if there were no consequences happened in their homeland. China was a typical example. Only when the air pollution took a serious risk to Chinese people's health and delayed many daily activities with many extreme nature events that the governments decided to sign in the agreement. Climate change has already been a big problem to humans, but we should pay more attention for both governments and global citizens to remain our existence on Earth. After our presentation, we hope that we can give you all more information and raise awareness in this issue. Thanks for listening.